Hey, scrappy people, it's Tracy Reed here, and I am starting a sort of mini series. I used to do these videos called Wreck It Wednesday, where I had like a kit of papers and embellishments that I had created that all coordinates, with an emphasis on my older stuff that I would use up until it was gone. And I really enjoyed that series. And I haven't done it in a long time, but I still have been sort of making the paper kits and pulling papers together that coordinate. And I made this one that is sort of a combination of boy embellishments. So there is the Cocoa Vanilla Boys Rule line, Heidi Swaps Wolfpack line, a little bit of Pink Fresh Studio, and then just some random papers from my stash. And I pulled it together a while back, and I've used it a little bit. Obviously it's cut up, so I've used some of it, but I found it on my shelf again, and I was like, you know what, this is a really great palette for everything that I've been doing this summer, so why don't I just kill this kit, or at least come close to killing this kit. So we have Boys Rule, we have some old Pink Fresh Studio, this is an old Cocoa Daisy kit, here's old Cool Kid, Echo Park Adventure Awaits line. Then I have some local designs specific to Tennessee, which are going to be great for Patrick and I in our travels. Then this is older Cocoa Daisy as well. And then I got a lot of Heidi Swap Wolfpack in here. I really adore this line. I should have bought more of it. And then more local design, and then Goldenrod, and a little bit more Pink Fresh Studio. So you can see all of this is a bunch of different lines, but they all go together and will work really beautifully together. So I've pulled out a few spreads and pocket pages, etc., that I think will work with these papers and these embellishments. So let me get this out of the way. There we go. So my goal over the next few videos I film, and I'm intending to do this all in one Saturday, but then the videos will come out a little bit slower than that. So we've got this spread with a 6x12 insert of the Twin Arches hike that Patrick and I went on. Then I have a spread, actually this is two 9x12s, one of me with sunflowers and one of Finn on a walk, that I'm going to create a 2-page spread with. Then, because of the Great Smoky Mountains stuff in there, I also have these pages of Patrick and I on a ride in the Great Smoky Mountains. So I want to use this collection for all of these pages, and hopefully I will get it all done and it will work out well. All right, so let's get on to the scrapbooking. I don't know which one I'm going to start with, but we'll see. So let's dive right in. I'm going to be starting with these photos of myself in a sunflower field, and I have pulled out the papers from the Wreck It Wednesday kit that I think I'm going to use. And it's funny because I pulled out this wood grain paper, and then I was like, hello, this side is kind of perfect. I mean, obviously they're not sunflowers, but there's bees and there's flowers, and there were bees everywhere in these sunflowers, of course. So it just seemed really perfect for this specific layout. So it was really cool that it was the first one I went for, and that I had pulled out that paper. And also it changes the whole feel of the Wreck It Wednesday collection, which is obviously very deep toned, kind of sort of masculine in ways, and I think that this light lime green really feminizes the whole collection a bit. I decided to mat this photo in the blue paper just to bring in a little bit more blue from the into this page, just because it was so green. And then I cut that down to a 3x4 with that flower on it because I wanted to make sure I saved it as a 3x4 card because I thought it would make a nice one. So I just did that before I decided to use the rest of that paper, and this is obviously the back of the paper, as little flag banners, and I'm kind of experimenting with it, where I want them to go. I love the 9x12 size this year, but sometimes, especially when you have a lot of photos and you haven't made them especially small, sometimes it's a little bit limiting as far as what you can do, because I'm missing 3 inches horizontally on this page, and I have 3 photos that I want to use, and they're horizontal, so it just takes up a whole lot of room. So I thought maybe I would make these banners horizontal, but it was just too wide, so I decided instead to make them vertical after moving these in and deciding, yeah, no, you don't even see them at this point. So my thought process was that I didn't want to cover up that B on the right hand side. I end up covering it anyway later on down the line, but right now I'm concentrating on not covering up that B and making the whole cluster sort of work around both B's so that you know, they're a little bit focal points of the layout. I do end up leaving it so that you can see the bee on the right hand side, or on the left hand side, but the one on the right hand side does get covered up, unfortunately. I'm making my cluster independently of the background paper so that I can move it around a bit, or at least I was. But now I've decided on the whole composition, so I've glued it down. I like to do that a lot, especially when I've got these sort of clustered photos, just to make sure that I leave my options open before I lay it down. That is a little cut apart label from the Cocoa Vanilla Studio collection. This same sticker sheet is from that collection as well. I'm kind of going through and seeing if any of this stuff will work, and I'm discovering that obviously the boy stuff isn't going to work, but also the wolf pack ephemera is not going to work as well. So I end up pulling in some more embellishments that I am going to use throughout the collection. Some of them I end up using, some of them I don't. I just kind of pulled out things that were sitting to the side in my stash that were easy to pull from, and also that I thought might match. So these are actually fall themed embellishments from, I don't remember, I think it was a Jen Hadfield line, I'm not sure because I put it in a plastic bag, but from last Thanksgiving. So there's a lot of gratitude embellishments in this collection, but I thought that these rich colors would help tie in this layout with the rest of the layouts, especially since I'm going to have another 9x12 layout to the right of this one in my album that is going to be using the same Rick It Wednesday collection. So I wanted to make sure I pulled in and neutralized how bright that lime green background was and brought in some rich color. So I think it worked out really well, especially down the line in a few weeks when you see this one next to the one that goes next to it. You'll see how well these rich colors play off of each other. So I'm framing this word art with the frame from the collection. It's a gold and like a hunter green frame. I never ever use frames, so I was super excited to get this frame down on the page and use it. And then I pulled in some embellishments as well. Just a couple. I've got crepe paper, the crepe paper summer line from this year. I thought that that would match these layouts pretty well. I wanted to use this so bad, but it doesn't end up on the page. I thought it didn't really quite match the style that I was going for. This is More Than Words from Cocoa Vanilla Studio, and I don't end up using it for any of the layouts. Then I have this Simple Stories Vintage Botanicals. I'm not sure if that's what it's called. I didn't get this whole line, so I'm not sure. But it's got some cool like borders and things in it. So I do pull out that one and I don't use it, but I'm going to use these little tabs. And I'm going to create sort of a file folder structure across the top. So it'll just look like, you know, layered file folders behind that photo. And then once I have these white tabs at the top, I feel like I need some white at the bottom as well, because it's not quite bright enough down there. So I'm going to pull in a couple white word strips. Then when I'm looking at this, I'm feeling like it's getting close to done and I'm really liking it, but there's something missing down in the left corner of my cluster itself. So I have those white flowers down there and it feels like it should be enough to really ground the cluster and make it feel balanced, but it really doesn't. I feel like they're less of a focal point and more of a background than they ostensibly should be as big white flowers on my layout. So I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to add a title and I'm going to grab a doily. So first thing I'm going to do is finish off my title while I think. And I put it on wax paper so I can move it around. And I'm going to put it right here and it's going to say Seek Beauty. So those are some old thickers, they're like wood grain in my stash, and then these I just bought are Pink Fresh Studio Mini Alphas, and man, I need these in every single freaking color because I adore these so much. I'm going to use them in quite a few layouts throughout this series. I end up with 6 videos, 8 layouts. You saw in the beginning of this video me walking through the kit and all of the spreads and stuff that I'm going to use it on. And I sat down in one weekend, one day actually, and scrapped all of these layouts, and I really love how they came together, so I'm super excited for this series, and I hope you really love it too. If you want to see more of the Wreck It Wednesday series with other kits, if this is something that really interests you, let me know in the comments below so that I can gauge some interest on whether or not we're actually, you know, interested in me doing collections like this. So I decided I wanted a little doily down there to ground the cluster, so I just kind of snipped it around that paper, and that really finishes it off real well for me. I tried to work in this doily over here, it's not going to work. But yeah, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I'd love to have you, and I will see you next time. Thank you.